The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, so thrilled and excited to be here with you this morning. We have been doing some reruns lately, as I know you guys have noticed. I took some time off. My son turned 21. Like, who would have thought that could happen? But it did. And I also did some doctor's appointments and got some medical tests and things that I never take time to do that I tell you guys to do all the time. So we're taking the time to do that. But we're back. And yesterday we were scheduled to be here with Dr. Grampuchet, but there was a massive storm in Florida and she had no internet. So we've been gone for a while for various and sundry reasons, but we're thrilled. We're back and we're back for the foreseeable future. So until I have jury duty. So, you know, strap in, hang on. We're all good. We got a big show today and we're doing things a little out of order today. We are going to do jargon of the day, but we have two guests today. So we're going to jump around and do things a little bit differently. So first of all, I want to let you know we're live right now. Can you tell? I'm so excited. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So we hope that you're there and participating if you're watching live. The show will be available later on as a podcast. Wherever you download podcasts for free, it will be available. Please check our YouTube channel where we have a robust 14 years worth of podcasts. Woohoo, 14 complete years of podcasts. Good morning, Rodney. I love that you're there. First thing, I just so appreciate that. It's like we can start. Rodney's here. Please feel free to write in like Rodney if you have questions, because both of our guests today have really important pivotal information. And it's a little bit like if one isn't what you need right now, the other one very likely is. So we're going to cover, I think everybody will find something that they need today. So that's going to be really exciting. Also want to say a big thank you to our fabulous producer, Chris Desmond, who is just working overtime to make sure that we got both of our guests in today. He's showing you some of the different ways that you can listen in podcasts, ways that you can watch us on YouTube. Please like, share, review. We love it when you review. That helps other people to be able to find us. When you download the podcast, you know by now that you're going to be getting that for free, but it comes with advertisements on it. And we hope that you embrace those advertisers because they're what makes it possible for you to get it for free. If you don't want the advertisements, there is a way that you can pay a small monthly fee, $5 a month. If you go to glow.fm/autism live, you get everything that Autism Network does, and you get it ad-free for $5 a month. It's actually cheaper if you pay for it for an entire year. So something to consider. So who are my guests today? And a little bit at the second half of the hour, we're going to be joined by a CPA, attorney, and author who is a financial whiz and is going to tell us things that we need to do to be prepared for now and for later financial planning. They've got a free webinar that's coming up that you might very well want to participate in with a free gift to help you on your journey. So Jim Lange will be with us at the bottom half of the hour. But first, we are going to welcome back to the show Cassie Gonzales, who is from the Stand Project. And we're going to talk with her because they've got a new version of the Stand. Do we call it a class? I'm going to ask her how we specify that in just a second. But this, if you are in the demographic that is in the right mode for this, this is a really good program. Let me tell you a little bit about Cassie. Cassie is a fifth-year clinical psychology PhD student at the University of Southern California. She received her master's degree in clinical psychology at USC, her bachelor's degree at UC Berkeley in psychology and public health, and clinical training at UCLA and USC. I mean, hello. Talk about a pedigree. Cassie has worked with the autism community for 10 years in several roles, including play therapist, special education classroom aide, diagnostician, therapist, parent trainer, and more. Her research focuses on improving accessibility to appropriate and neurodiversity affirming supports and services for autistic people and their families. How much do we love that? So let's welcome her back so that we can talk more about STAND. I love your bio. I kind of want to be you when I grow up, Cassie. It's all the things. You've got all the letters and all the heart and all the compassion. Did you write that? That's fabulous, your bio.
Thank you.
And you're living it, which is even better.
Every day.
Okay, so the STAND study, this is your life's project at the moment.
Yes.
You're doing this at USC, University of Southern California. Tell us what STAND stands for.
Yes. So STAND stands for Support and Training on Autism for Newly Diagnosed Families. It is a virtual parent group that is supposed to help parents who are new to the autism diagnosis and just getting sorted on everything that comes with that new transition.
Yeah. And it's, I got to say, because is this your third round that you're getting ready to start or the second?
This is actually, I think, the fourth or fifth group that we're looking for.
You've been busy.
Point.
But I have in the past tried to refer people to this. And I know one person in particular who did the study and said, oh, Shannon, this was the best thing ever. This helped me so much. You know, she said, this got me clear as a mom about which way I'm walking. So high compliments there. So you're currently recruiting for this new round. Talk a little bit about what the qualifications you have to have. By the way, this is free. Free. That's important. I love the word free. So what are the qualifications you have to have in order to participate?
Yeah, so anyone who is the legal guardian of a child aged 2.5 to 6 years old who was diagnosed with autism within a year and who live in California are eligible. Right now, we only have English groups, but Spanish groups are in development, so hoping to roll that out soon.
Okay, so you got to be in California. You have to be the legal guardian. They have to be diagnosed within the last year, and they have to be between the ages of 2.5 to 6. But if you meet that criteria, you want to register for this free class. It's going to set you up for success. Where do they have to go to do that, Cassie?
So there's a few different options. You can go onto our website, which is, I think that we have the link. It's a little long to say. We can also send us an email at autismfs.lab@gmail.com, and we can get you signed up. And I believe there's also
on the screen.
If you send us an email, we can set you up, give you all the information you need to know, and get you enrolled in the classes and the study.
Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about what happens when people are participating in the study. What kinds of things can they expect?
Yeah, so it is a study. So we want to make sure that we're learning if it's effective or not. So that means that we'll do a few surveys and quick interviews before and after the groups. Those take about a half hour, and we give a $20 Amazon gift card to thank you for your time. But once you're done with that, we do the fun part, which is the STAND group. And so the group is virtual, so you don't have to be near USC. You can be anywhere in California. There are 8 sessions, 1 per week, 1 hour per week. And you're going to be in a group with a facilitator and 3 to 4 other parents. And so each week we talk about a number of different topics that parents are wanting to know during this time of their lives. Things like, what is autism? What is not autism? What supports and services are even out there, and how do you get started in getting those? More information about like your child's behavior, communication, emotion regulation, advocacy, talking to other people in your life, whether that be a teacher or your mother-in-law, about your child's diagnosis. We really hit a range of topics, and we do that in a way where you get to hear that information, but also discuss it with other group members and the facilitator to make sure it makes sense for your specific family and your situation. And we top that off with weekly goals. And as Shannon mentioned, we have participants really make a lot of progress with our weekly goals and be on the right track once they're done.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. It's notable, like all the people that you consulted when putting this content together. Talk to a little bit about that.
Yes, I love talking about this part. So we talked to a range of folks, everyone from hospital department heads to behavior therapist providers to psychologists in the service provider area. But most importantly, we talked to autistic adults. We asked them about their contributions to the content. We asked them what their thoughts were and thinking about, okay, as an adult looking back, what would I have wanted my mom to know about me and how I process the world and how to best support me? We also talked to parents to get the reality of that. And it was really a really nice collaborative process. And I don't think the program would be anywhere near what it is now without those contributions. So I think that's a really important, helpful part of what makes the program palatable to families and helpful for their kids in the future as well.
Yeah, I remember when, even as we were getting the diagnosis, but I really thought, Cassie, that once we had the diagnosis, like I wasn't looking forward to the diagnosis, but everybody kept telling me, once you get the diagnosis, then you're going to be able to start in a direction. And I remember thinking that I was going to get a whole bunch of help and support and resources and sort of see a decision tree about, like, you can go this route, you can go. I sort of expected it was going to be like any other major medical thing that happens in your life, that somebody sits down and counsels you and says, okay, here's what we know, here's what we've seen. Some people take this path, some people take that path. Nothing like that happened for me. Nothing like that happened for me. The developmental pediatrician who diagnosed said to me, I said, what do I do now? And she said, take him home and enjoy him. That was her big, fat advice to me. Take him home and enjoy him. I'm still resentful about that. Can you tell? So I love that you're doing this, because for any parent who's out there who's in that first year, who's like, I don't know, and you're Googling like a mad person. We all talk about Google University. This is a great thing. If you are in the California area, I really hope that you'll take advantage of this. It's all virtual. So you can be in the farthest, California is a long state. You can be in the farthest reach of California and still participate in this. And not only is it free, but they will give you a gift card for, participating, which is nothing to sneeze at. We can all spend $20 on Amazon. Hello. So I would love to hear from you. I know you've talked about this before, but you're a little bit further along the road now. What's the long-term goal for this? Why did you start this, and what are you hoping to achieve, Cassie? Because I believe in you.
Well,
I believe it'll happen.
I think the core of why I'm interested in this research is I spent a lot of time in autism research, and I was seeing a lot of these fabulous programs that just weren't really reaching folks. And so that's really been like a motivation behind my work, where I really want to be doing work that's going to make a real impact on people's lives. And so we are running this study and hoping to have that evidence that this is effective. Once we do that, we're working on developing it in Spanish. Right now, we're actually working on developing a manual so that we can distribute it to ABA agencies, to regional centers, to speech language, all sorts of centers that see autistic folks and their families. And so we're in progress of making this a real thing that people can do in their communities and share with other folks. We're really excited. It's nice to be at the end part where we can start planning on how to share this with other folks.
Yeah. So right now, the parameters are that it's state of California, but that is not the end goal. You really want to be able to reach everybody with this.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, California, as you mentioned, is a massive state. And so we are working on making sure that this program applies to the people who are in more like farm communities, as well as in like Los Angeles city communities. Yeah. That's a quite range of experiences for families, a lot of different service access, a lot of different like community messages about autism. And so we're working on making it so it applies to everybody, regardless of their situation. And then we're really excited to try to expand it across the US and make it really a resource for everybody, and even internationally eventually. There's a lot of need there. And so many future ideas that we're really excited to try to package and make it appropriate for people in all sorts of places.
Yeah, and I hope everybody realize, we always talk about when you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, right? It's not a one size fits all, even when you're all in that first year, right? What you need for your family, what you have access to, what you have funding for is all going to be different. And one of the things that I love about this is that it isn't geared to be a one size. It really gives information that helps everybody to be able to make informed choices about what they want to choose to do and what's available to them. Yes?
Exactly. Yeah, very well said. That we give you the starting point, but most of our time is spent thinking, what does this mean for you? How do we apply this? How can we like specifically give you advice that's going to work within your family, within your community, within your own belief system?
Yeah.
'Cause all of those things collide and they're all really important for families to hold close, but also used to solve problems and help their family progress in a way they want to see.
Yeah. I really, I love and respect what you're doing, which is why I'll always make time for you here, Cassie. But we need to let everybody know that you have space for a couple of more people in this new, what do you call it? A go round? What, this new edition? What this new round? What is it called?
We call them cohorts, so that's not very fun. So we probably should think of a more fun name to call them.
Well,
Groups, rounds, cohorts is what we call them. But yes,
that
we
sounds
have
very
spots in the
professional.
summer.
So you have a new cohort. That sounds very professional.
Right.
That's why I couldn't think of it. It's not a word I use. But so a new cohort, you guys have a couple of openings because it's not a large group. It's a small group. You have a couple of openings. So if you know somebody who is in California or you are somebody in California, again, the parameters are you have to be in the state of California. The age of the individual who is diagnosed needs to be between 2.5 and 6. And they have to have been diagnosed in the last 12 months, calendar 12 months. If that is you or you know someone that is, you can write to autismfs.lab@gmail.com to help you to remember that autism FS is for family support .lab@gmail.com. And you would just write and say, I'm interested in this. You can say, I saw Cassie on Autism Live or not, and say that you're interested. But I would like for everybody, sometimes we talk about something and you go, yeah, that's not where I am. I don't qualify. That's not me. But I bet that you know somebody. I bet right now you know somebody that does qualify for that you're aware of, that you're like, oh, you know who this would fit? And sometimes letting somebody else know because they're so busy, they may not be here watching this today. And I'll tell you something, that's karma bank stuff right there. If you just shoot them an email and say, I saw something on Autism Live today, I think it might interest you. It's a free study that you would really benefit from, because I'll tell you what, that could change their life. And if you think about if somebody has done that for you, or you wish that somebody had done that for you, please take the time to do that. Let's find a couple of people for Cassie for this cohort so that they can have the benefit of this. Cassie, I'm so proud to know you. This is a really important thing. Is there any other information that we have left out?
No, we did a great job covering it. Thank you so much for having me. You have such a great show and community here, and it's so nice to be able to reach out to folks who have gone through this in so many different ways and have been so involved. So I really appreciate you having me back, and it's always a pleasure to be on the show.
It's always a thrill to have you here. I do want to give a specific push that this is available to anybody in California, but as you said, for anybody who's in those rural communities, this is not no joke here. We hear all the time from people who are like, I don't live close enough to be able to find a lot of things. This is virtual. So everybody go through your memory bank right now. Who do you know in California that's had their child diagnosed within the last year? And let's get them signed up for this. It'll be good for them. Thank you so much, Cassie. Please give my love to everybody there in your program. You're doing amazing work.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here.
All right. You take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Okay. We're doing things a little out of order today because we have 2 guests. And so that's super fun. We're going to be joined by Jim Lange in just a little while, but it's time for Jargon of the day, which we normally do at the top of the show. I'm very excited about today's jargon of the day. You guys, if you watch the show, you know we usually take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani are these experts talking about. And this, I don't know that we've ever done this for jargon of the day, which kind of makes me fatutzt at myself because we talk about this all the time. And I do think that today's jargon, you know, whenever I'm doing these, I always think to myself, what jargon term will help them to save 5 minutes and $5? Like, how can we get to more progress, save time, and save money? Well, today, this is like the one to hit it out of the ballpark, especially for the summer, because we're in the summer now. We're deep in this. I know it's not officially summer yet, but it will be next week. But if it is, for all intents and purposes. So today's jargon term is visual schedule. I've got my Carol Merrill backwards. Visual schedule. If you watch the show at all, I talk about this endlessly because it is the answer to a lot of the things that are kicking your keister today. So let's take a look at what our actual definition is, which I believe is from Wikipedia. Wikipedia says visual schedules use a series of pictures to communicate a series of activities or the steps of a specific activity. They are often used to help children understand and manage the daily events in their lives. I like this definition. It's very innocuous. It's not presumptive. It's, you know, and it gets us a couple of important things. We see that it's pictures. We're seeing pictures of something, either the steps to something or a series of activities, but it's pictures. If you think about it, there's a lot of things that we do in our life that are visual prompts, right? Every sign on the highway that we see is a visual prompt that's telling you. And if they're good signs, it helps make our life easier, right? And if they're bad signs, what happens? Or there aren't enough of them, anxiety goes up. So let's move on to our working definition here. Visual schedule, a kind and clear way to communicate information to learners who are not language fluent. Visual schedules help to reduce anxiety. Okay, so let's take for a moment the 3-year-old who does not yet understand all of the words in the English language, or any language for that matter, right? And we know, I'm mom, and I know what we have to do today. I know we got a busy day and we got to run a bunch of errands and we got to go over to grandma's house and we got to do this and this and this. And it's all in my head, or it's on my phone, or it's somewhere where I know what we're doing today. And I take this 3-year-old who doesn't understand a lot of language and I drag them through their life for the day. And we go here, we go there. And what ends up happening is that at some point, this 3-year-old, their anxiety is going to ratchet up because they don't know what's going on. They don't know when they're going to get a break. They don't know when am I going to get to see grandma? I heard her say grandma. That's the one word I know. When is grandma on this list of things? It's unkind. It's unconscionably kind to drag them through life. It is much kinder, and you will get much better results if you give them a visual schedule of what we're doing. And we do this not just for kids on the autism spectrum. We do this across the board. If you walk into any classroom that's any early education classroom, I would say easily up through junior high, you should see a visual schedule on a wall somewhere. If you don't, you should ask for it because it's considered a good teaching technique for everyone because kids can plan and go, okay, I know that from 7:20 to 8:30, we are doing math. And I'm not going to end up doing math for the rest of the day. I only have to get till 8:30 with the math. Or I love math. So I'm so excited that I get to have that all the way till 8:30. And then I get a break, right? So my point here is, again, it's a kind and clear way to communicate information. So why wouldn't we do this? Well, there's lots of reasons why we don't do it because it takes a couple of minutes to set up. And sometimes that's the crux of the whole thing. It's like, oh my gosh, I got one more thing I got to do, Shannon. I got to make a visual schedule. And how do I do that? I'm not artistic. I'm not creative. And I'm just going to say to you with love, Pinterest. Pinterest, Pinterest, Pinterest. You can purchase, there are wonderful teachers and therapists who have made visual schedules, and they'll give you all kinds of icons to choose from. So for instance, let's take this across a couple of different age ranges. For the 3-year-old that we were just describing, by the way, they have these in apps too that you can do it on the phone. And that might be the better way to do because it's mobile, or you can have something that's, a sheet that you take with you. We used to do it old school, and everything we made little pieces of paper and laminated them, and there was Velcro so we could stick things on. And eventually my son loved to put the Velcro things on himself, but you could do it on the phone. But we make the schedule, and it shows, the first thing, and it could be, the sun coming up, showing we're going to do that in the morning, or it could be the times, right? Because we're helping to teach with these things too, but it shows eating breakfast, right? And it can be a photograph of eating breakfast, or it can be a stick figure, with the spoon going to their mouth with a bowl of cereal, whatever we choose to do that the child will eventually be able to understand. In the beginning, they're going to be like, I don't know what that is, but it'll start to make sense. But then we for each thing that we're going to do, right, we have some sort of picture. Again, it could be a drawing, a very simple drawing, or it could be an actual photo. Like maybe when we get to grandma, there's a photo of grandma. So the kiddo begins to realize, okay, first I got to eat breakfast. Then I have to get dressed. Then we're going to go, and there's a picture of Target. We're going to go to Target. And then I get to see grandma. And that will help to reduce anxiety. Your child begins to know what's coming. Now, when kids are a little bit older, it can be text. If they can read, we can have it be text. That's still a visual schedule, but it's kind and it's clear. And summer sometimes is a hot, hot mess. Why? Because they're used to structure at school. And now sometimes we come home and we go, yay, no structure, right? We got time off. We can do whatever we want. And it ends up poorly. And we go, what went wrong? Why is this so bad? Well, it's bad because they don't know what to expect. And when am I going to get a break? And when am I going to do this? They don't know what to look forward to. They don't know what. And if we had to live that way, we would hate it, right? Dr. Grant Pichet always says, imagine if you were asked to come into work and you were not told when you were going to get to go home, when you were going to get a lunch break, when you were going to get paid, when you could go to the bathroom. You would hate it. It would be so stressful. So we cannot do this to our kiddos. That's why we make the visual schedule. And it really can be customized to whatever you want. When my son was a little bit older, we had inside the pantry cabinet, there was the laminated thing saying, what are you going to do today? And there were little boxes, and there were all these little laminated pieces of paper. And the first one I would give him was that he loved to swim. So swimming was always going to be on the schedule, and I would give it to him first and say, when do you want to swim? Giving them choice too, big thing. And he would choose, I want to swim first thing, or I want to swim last thing, or in the middle, whatever. He would choose where he wanted to swim. And then I would hand him one that wasn't as much fun. When are we going to work on handwriting today? Right? And he would find the place that he wanted to put the handwriting. And that would make it easier for him because it was his choice when were we going to work on the handwriting, right? And then we would put in a fun thing, and then we would put in another thing that wasn't as much fun, like when are we going to do chores, right? So, but the whole point is then it's there and we don't have to guess. And we'd open it, we go, what's next on the schedule? And he would know, I'm only doing handwriting for this long, and afterwards I get to play video games, right? So do a visual schedule, you guys. And I know sometimes you think, oh, my child's only 2, it's too early. No, start early with a visual schedule. It will reduce stress. Hey, I'm saying good morning to Autism Journey with Elijah and to Travis. Travis says, just wanted to say thank you. Recently studied your videos on recommendations for IEP, and it was like you gave me the LEA playbook. Woohoo! No recoding. Not true in my state. Let's talk about 504. Not today, but we are proceeding with an IEP. So we will only do these 2 evaluations. We will do a full evaluation, and then we will move forward with an IEE if necessary. I'm so glad that was helpful to you. And we do need to, it's funny because I almost made the jargon of the day 504 today. So Vulcan mind meld. We will be talking more about 504s. But to be honest, we always recommend the IEP. And it's very rare that we recommend a 504 when there's an autism diagnosis. And generally when the people get to the 504, they're like so progressed because they've had IEPs for so long, but we should still talk about it. It's true. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you guys all for watching. So I promised you a second guest today. So we're going to welcome right now James Lange to the program for the first time. He's a CPA, attorney, and author. He's an estate attorney who's been practicing for more than 35 years. He is the author of 10 best-selling financial books, including his most recent book that has co-authors, Retire Secure for Parents of a Child with a Disability. Jim wrote that book after he figured out the best long-term plan for his family, which includes an adult child with a disability, and realized his solutions have universal value to most families with a child with disability. He has been quoted 36 times in the Wall Street Journal, and that's a pretty impressive figure. I have not been quoted any times in the Wall Street Journal. Just want to be clear about that. So let's welcome Jim. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Shannon.
And first of all, we have to say, and I know we're going to talk about this several times, but you've got a really important event that's coming up in the next week that's available to parents. Let's start by talking about that, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I have been on a mission recently to provide as much extremely valuable information as I possibly can. So I wanted to make an offer to your listeners to have both the book that I wrote, which is about 450 pages, but the good news is it has a 16-page table of contents, so you can find exactly what you're looking for. And I'd like everybody who is interested to have that book for free. And then we are doing a virtual summit where I, the two other co-authors, and a whole slew of basically non-financial speakers who are going to be talking about various let's say, sections or areas that they can be helpful for parents of a disability. And we're also going to have Tatiana McFadden, who is a champion wheelchair racer. So she's one of the top athletes in the world with a disability, 20 gold, 20 Paralympic medals, everything. But the goal for both today and for the summit, which is June 16, 17, and 18, is to provide the best information we know how. It's all free, and it is available at disabledchildplanning.com//free summit.
Yeah.
Again, and it's up on the screen. I can see it. disabledchildplanning.com/free stuff. So thank you very much for allowing me to do that, Shannon, and thank you for going out of your way to get me in today. I know that you jumped through a few hoops to do that, so thank you very much.
Well, we kind of messed you up. We've been using a new software, and we kind of had a glitch where we were rescheduling Monday, and we didn't see that you had registered, and so we definitely owed that to you, because we apologize for that. But again, you guys, so there's a free, it's called the Financial and Life Planning Summit, and you can register for that, and you can get your free digital copy of Retire Secure for Parents of a Child with a Disability. Now, you guys, it's not every day that we offer free things and we have guests who are offering free things. And I'll tell you something, you might say, I'm not ready to face the financial thing right now. We're going to talk to Jim and he's going to give you some reasons why you might want to, but you should get this free book. Like, it is not every day that we're offering you a free book. So you should do that, and you should register for the summit as well. I mean, it's free information, you guys. We can't get it better than that. Okay, so definitely do that. And again, we'll have Chris put it back on the screen. You want to go to disabledchildplanning.com/free stuff. And I don't know if you heard earlier, Jim, I said, I love free. Free is always my favorite thing. So free is good. Okay, so now we're going to come back to that, and we're going to reiterate that many times. But you're here and you're a financial whiz, so we're going to ask you some questions. So let's start with, what are the 3 critical steps that parents of a child with a disability must take to guarantee their child's long-term financial security? 3 things.
Okay, let's start with step number 1. And this is typically done when your child, just after your child turns 18. And assuming that the child has the characteristics that would qualify, you want to get your child qualified for either SSI or SSDI. Now, SSI is actually a poverty program, so you might have to plan for your child, in effect, to be broke. And the reason why age 18 is important is because if the child is younger than 18, they are going to take the income and the assets of the parents into account to determine the eligibility for the child. And in most cases, that's going to make the child ineligible. But if your child is more than 18 years old or right after they turn 18, it is absolutely mission critical to get the child qualified for SSI and SSDI, and perhaps we can go, further into details. Should I go on to the second thing, or should we talk about some more details of the SSI or SSDI? And Shannon, I'll give you that choice.
I think we got to go on to the second one because we got a lot of ground to cover. But and people can Google it, or we'll have you back, or we'll get to it at the end. But let's move on to the second one, if you don't mind.
The second thing is, and this is mission critical, you have to get your estate planning done and done correctly. And there's a huge need to get this done right. So typically, after you die, and particularly if you have money in an IRA or a retirement plan, we want to preserve this money for your child. And one of the exceptions of the Secure Act is that your child, or more accurately, a special needs trust for the benefit of your child, can stretch that inherited IRA, inherited 401k, and even inherited Roth IRA over their lifetime, which means that they could take much smaller distributions over many years that is much more tax efficient than having to take it all out in 10 years. And you most likely want a special needs trust, because if you don't have a special needs trust, like let's say you just leave it to the child outright, or you leave it to a more traditional, like asset protection type trust, that money might disqualify the child for future benefits. And worse, that money might become available for the Social Security Administration to take back some money that they already paid to you or your child. So, and it's really important to go to somebody that knows what they're doing in this area, because not only do they have to get that trust right and a bunch of other things right, but they have thornier issues that are more difficult than, say, doing a will for a parent who has a child, but that child doesn't have a disability. Things like the guardianship provision has to really be thought out well, and the power of attorney. So the second thing, and I can't, the first, if I only could do one, I would get the child qualified for SSI or SSDI. Number 2 is the estate area and getting your wills and trusts. And I have a real gem of a specialty issue that I'm going to hold off for a little bit in that area, something that hardly anybody knows that is very valuable. So that is the second area. And the third area is to get your planning right, your financial planning. And I don't mean necessarily the investments, although that too, but I mean the strategies. And depending on how much time we have will depend on what strategies I would stress the most. But I would say if you only had one strategy that you were going to work on, it would be to optimize your Roth IRA conversion planning. Most likely doing a series of Roth conversions over a period of years. Now, there's a lot of, there's like 300 pages on this topic. So we could get into, I've given 8-hour workshops just on Roth conversions. So you can go as deep as you like. But again, the three most critical issues. Number 1, mission critical. Debbie McFadden calls it the golden ticket. Get your child qualified for SSI or SSDI. Number 2, get your estate planning right, most likely with a special needs trust. And number 3, getting your strategies right. And the thing that I'm going to add that a lot of people don't, and they don't understand the power of it, is getting your Roth IRA conversion strategies right. In my own case, doing all 3 of those compared to doing none of them is the difference between my daughter running out of money versus having $1.9 million in today's dollars.
Yeah.
So not because the investments did better, not because, and that doesn't even include government benefits. So in effect, it's a transfer of $1.9 million over many years, to be fair, from Uncle Sam to my daughters, and more specifically to my daughter's special needs trust over a number of years. And, to me, if you have a child with a disability, it is such a difficult job to provide for that child, both while you're alive and after you're gone, that you really need to get these 3 steps right.
Yes. And it has a huge impact on your child, as you say, has had on yours. I'm curious though, because I think what we're already learning is there's more to this than most of us are thinking about. And I know a lot of us take a Pollyanna attitude. I'm certainly guilty of this, I'm sure it'll all work out. And if I'm not here, somebody who loves me and loves my kid will step in and help. But truthfully, we need to get savvy while we're alive and take care of business while we're alive. But there's information that we don't all have. How did you find out what you found out, Jim? How did this all come to you?
Well, first, I had a major advantage. So going into this, our daughter was not born with a disability. But going into this, I am a CPA. I am an estate attorney. My specialty is working with people who have IRAs and retirement plans and 401ks and 403bs and those type of tax advantage plans. I was also an expert in a law called the Secure Act and Secure 2.0. So that's the perfect background to figure out the financial aspect of it, more specifically the Roth and some of the strategies. And then, as a matter of necessity, I didn't do this, I'm going to figure out the best plan and then, save the world. It's, no, we better figure out a way to help our daughter, because it was, and it still is. I'm not, now we worry about non-financial issues. But the worrying about her running out of money and running out of resources after we were gone was the thing that kept us up at night, and it created enormous anxiety. And Shannon, as you just pointed out, it was not only created anxiety for us, it created anxiety for her. Yeah. And then after we told her, what our plan was and how she was going to be okay, the anxiety for her was significantly decreased. And so many conditions, people's physical conditions, are worsened with anxiety and improved with reduction in anxiety. So even just getting the finances right and these 3 steps right not only helps the financial picture, but it also helps your health.
So huge impact for you on your day-to-day life. And I assume that has inspired you to try to help other parents to get to this space of peace, of knowing that the plan is implemented and they're going to be okay.
I think it makes such a difference. And you're right. I wrote 9 best-selling books before this that had nothing to do with disability. But then when I realized, there's, literally well over 1 million people in my position, and the planning is just typically so bad. And a lot of it is based on, frankly, people don't know what to do. And unfortunately, and I don't have an easy answer for this one, most attorneys and most estate attorneys also don't know what to do. So the other reason I'm doing this is, frankly, I want to educate some of the estate attorneys and some of the CPAs and some of the financial planners on some strategies that'll work.
Now, you mentioned that you expressed all of this to your daughter. First of all, there are so many conversations that we all feel overwhelmed by, and even starting a conversation about when we're not here, what's going to happen to you and financially, like, how did this play out and how did you approach that telling her?
Well, one thing is I felt that I needed her permission to go on this crusade, if you will, because I thought it would be more powerful if it included my own personal story that was obviously her personal story. And even at 21, when she could presumably give me legal consent, I really didn't feel comfortable doing it then. But then as she got to her mid and then she's 29 now, and that's when I started getting excited about this project. And I said, hey, Erica, first, let me tell you what we're doing for your situation. And now also let me tell you that even though, of course, there's many individual differences, but the 3 steps that I just outlined, I think are pretty universal for most parents of a child that have a child with a disability. Is it okay to tell your story? And she was all in. She says, hey, Dad, we can help more people. That's great. And I was very fortunate to get 2 wonderful co-authors, Debbie McFadden, who was she was the disability commissioner under H.W. Bush. She was one of the people responsible for the American Disabilities Act of 1990. And Julia Steinbacher, who's an estate attorney who just specializes in this area. And we put together this book, and now we put together this summit, and the 3 of us are going to be speaking. And then we found about 14 other speakers who will be speaking about non-aspects. And again, I just want to get this information out there in any way I can to help people's lives. And I'll just mention one more thing, and then I'll try to be quiet for a minute. The importance of getting this right, if you have a child with a disability, is radically different and radically more important than if you have a child that doesn't have a disability. I'll just give you an example. Let's say that you go to either a financial advisor or an estate attorney, or you're a do-it-yourselfer, and you screw it up. You don't do the Roth that you should have. The provision in the will or the trust was wrong, and your kid ends up with a $500,000 less than they could have if you had done everything right. But your kid could otherwise get a job and support themselves. Would that be a terrible thing? Absolutely. Would it be a major human tragedy? Well, maybe it kind of is, but I hate paying extra taxes. But your kid isn't going to starve because presumably they could work, make some money, and provide for themselves. But if you have a child with a disability, and depending on what definition you use, I'll just start with a simple one, that your child can't earn a living to support themselves, and you screw it up because you didn't have the right information or there was a mechanical screw up, that is a tragedy if a kid who otherwise would have, and not everybody's going to be $1.9 million better off, but even if you only have a $500,000 IRA, if you do the steps I'm talking about, your kids are going to be better off by, given reasonable assumptions, $289,000. And again, that's the difference between maybe your kid being comfortable and your kid running out of money.
Yeah.
So it's just so important to get this right. And I actually felt compelled, since I had both the technical knowledge and frankly some of the marketing skills, to get this information out there. And very frankly, I will tell you, at 67 years old, after a 40+ year career, I am more excited about what I am doing now than I've ever been about anything I've ever done in my career, and nothing even comes close.
That's wonderful. I think we need to mention again that the summit is called the Financial and Life Planning Summit. You guys can register for that. That's for free, that you can go to that summit and participate, virtual summit. But if you register, you'll also get a free digital copy of Retire Secure for parents of a child with a disability. You need to register for that by going to disabledchildplanning.com/free stuff. And if you will go there, and I also want you to share this information with anybody you know. Look, I know that it's overwhelming to think about all of this, right? But I also know the peace of mind that comes when you take care of business. And Jim's got some things that are absolutely life-changing for you and your level of anxiety about what happens when you're not here, but are going to be life-changing for your child for the better when you're not here. So, Jim, I hear that you have a very little known but highly effective estate planning strategy for parents of a child on the autism spectrum that you're prepared to share with us today.
Yes, and this probably is applicable perhaps more to people on the autism spectrum than other types of disabilities. One of the things, and I'm certainly not going to hold myself out as having any medical expertise at all, but just through general experience, one of the things about people on the autism spectrum is it's not necessarily easy to predict their path. So I know that you are doing everything you can to improve that path, and I applaud your efforts, and I hope you keep doing it and improve many people's lives. But one of the problems when you do estate planning is you don't know where your child is going to be in terms of what their capabilities are at the time of your death. So let's say, for example, let's take the two easy extremes. One is it's very obvious based on, where your child is on the spectrum that your child's never going to be able to earn a living. What I'm going to say isn't all that relevant. Or, oh no, my child has, is on the spectrum, but they're still able to work. In fact, they can do really well. Then this isn't going to be, then probably they're not going to have a special needs trust. But what about maybe the majority, at least many of the people on the spectrum who you're hoping that they're going to do better, but you don't know. And then maybe later in life, there's a change where they get either better or worse. Well, if you use a traditional trust, health, maintenance, support, whether you call it a protective trust or a variation of the I don't want my no good son-in-law to inherit one red cent of my money trust, or one of a variety of types of typical trust, the problem with that trust is it doesn't protect government benefits for your child. And if you die with that type of trust, your child might lose that benefit, or even worse, the Social Security Administration can go into that trust to get some of the money that it paid out. But the problem with a special needs trust, which does protect the benefit, is it is more restrictive in terms of what it can pay for. So if your child is doing relatively well, has a job, can earn a living, you don't want that type of trust. You want a more, a general protection trust. But if your child isn't doing that well, clearly qualifies for SSI or SSDI, is receiving SSI or SSDI, then you want a special needs trust. So the question is, when you are drafting, and depending on your age, you might be around for 10, 20, 30, 40, 60 years. You don't know where your child's going to be on the spectrum at your death. So there is a plan called the toggle. And basically what it does is it allows your trustee to choose which type of trust you're going to use, or they're going to use, at your death. So Shannon, let's say that you have a child and you're doing everything you can and you're optimistic, but all your efforts, or there was a setback or whatever it is. So at your death, your child will still qualify for SSI or SSDI, or you'll want a special needs trust. Or let's say your child's doing much, in which case the trustee could toggle that trust to a special needs trust. Now, let's say for discussion's sake that your child's doing much better, isn't receiving SSI, SSDI, in which case you don't want a special needs trust, you want the just regular trust, in which case the trustee can toggle a regular trust. And hardly anybody's doing this, but it's really critical. And of course, we're never going to, we don't know where our child's going to be at our death. And the other thing is there could be a potential change even after, well after we die, 10 years, 20 years after we die. And this gets a little bit more complicated, but there are ways to preserve the ability for the trustee to do that toggle. Now, that's not the only way to do this, but it is one very good way. It's the way we have done it in practice. And it is, it's conceptually easier to understand. Oh, okay, we need a special needs trust. Let's toggle to special needs. Oh, we don't need that trust because we're not getting benefits. Then we'll just toggle to a regular protective trust. And I frankly learned about it relatively recently, and I was not using it in practice because we didn't know about it. Then when we learned about it, we started using it a lot because it just made so much sense. Because one of the problems of estate planning, and this isn't just in the disability world, but for everybody, is we just don't know what's going to happen in the future, how much money is going to be there, what the laws are going to be like, what state you're going to die in, what are the tax laws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anytime that we can build in flexibility and allow someone to make an intelligent choice of a couple intelligent options that we left them, the better that off our child is going to be.
This is amazing. I think this is really important information, Jim, because, a lot of times I'm talking to parents of kiddos that have just been diagnosed that are 3 and 4 years old. And they're making the decision in that moment to go all in with therapy, and they're hoping for the best possible outcome. And so when you talk to them about, so would you like to do a special needs trust? It feels completely antithetical to what you're all in trying to do. But I think we all want to make sure that our children are taken care of, and having that option of saying, I'm starting a trust right now, but we'll decide later on whether it's a special need trust or just a trust is huge. I think you're going to see a lot of parents are going to go, I could get behind that. That makes sense. That's wonderful. Now, if we're going to somebody to get that, if you just found out about it, I'm guessing a lot of people don't know do we need to come to you to make it happen? Which tell us how we would do that. But if we're going to somebody else, what are the words that we say to them so that we get this kind of an arrangement?
Well, interestingly enough, I sold my law practice, so I don't even have a practicing law firm anymore. So I have.
So you can't do it for us.
I can't do it. I'd love to do it. I can't do it. I know some attorneys who do know it. And the only thing that I could tell you is that in this area, you probably should be going to a specialist anyway.
Okay.
So even when I had my estate firm, and I have a wonderful estate attorney, I didn't use him for our estate plan because I wanted a specialist. And the specialist that I went to, and she's one of the co-authors, her name is Julia Steinbacher, and I was lucky. She happens to be licensed to practice in Pennsylvania, where I live. She knew so much that general estate attorneys didn't know. She was so helpful in areas that I hadn't even considered. And she actually had social workers on staff for her law firm. And she helped me out with insurance issues, or I should say one of her social workers helped me with insurance issues in Massachusetts, where our daughter lives. So she just brought up a bunch of things that even our excellent estate attorney, who had been working for me for 25 years, and I think he's bright as a whip, his name's Matt Schwartz, and he's the guy I sold my firm to. But it probably makes sense to go to a specialist if you can find one. And even if they're not in your city these days, you're most likely going to, unless you live in a big city, you're not likely to find somebody who specializes in this area. And then even if you do, and to be fair, there are other ways to handle this.
Okay.
And maybe you go to an estate attorney. An example is a guy named Bruce Steiner. And Bruce and I have been back and forth in email, and he tells me the way he handles it, which is perfectly fine. But if you don't use the toggle, you have to have, let's say, another mechanism. And if you don't have either of these mechanisms, then you don't have what you want. So you try to find out if the attorney either has a different mechanism, or if you educate the attorney. Now, very frankly, a lot of attorneys do it the way they've been doing it the last 30 years, and you can, you can tell anything you want. They're not going to be happy. I know if somebody told me, hey, I want you to draft something that has this, this, and this, I would say, well, can you give me proof, or can you give me the reasoning for it? And in that case, you could just give them the book and say, here, or there's, further additional research. We're actually hoping to publish something just on this topic. But it is important to find the right person. You have to have somebody, an attorney who is licensed in your state to do the work. So even if I was still practicing, if you were in any state other than Pennsylvania, I couldn't prepare your documents anyway. So you're going to have to find somebody who is licensed in your state. And then I would certainly bring this up and wait for well, how do you handle this problem of uncertainty of where our child will be? And Shannon, you gave a perfect example of when the child is young, and by the way, typically too young to apply for SSI or SSDI, but not too young for you to do your estate plan.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think the key here, you guys, is you got to get this free book. And you should register to go to this seminar. The seminar is Financial and Life Planning Summit. The book is Retire Secure for Parents of a Child with a Disability. These things are both free. You need to go to disabledchildplanning.com/free stuff to be able to register. But the summit is coming up. Now on this paper, I have it that being the 18th to the 20th. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So it's
and
next
the
week.
The financial stuff is on the 18th.
Okay.
So we have some non-financial stuff on the 19th and 20th.
Okay. Well, this has been amazing. I hope that you guys will register for this and tell other people about it, like it, share it, and let people know, because Jim's on a mission to help you guys with something you need help with. So take advantage of it. I wish we had more time to go over the differences between SSI and SSDI, but I bet that you're going to cover it in the seminar.
Well, specifically, Debbie McFadden is going to cover that area. And I don't think there's certainly nobody in the country that I think knows anywhere near as much as she does. So she'll cover that. Julie Steinbacher will cover most of the estate planning areas. I'll cover the Roth, other financial strategies, and some of the estate planning areas. But that first day, there's going to be just an enormous amount of valuable information. And then you'll have the book, and the best combination, of course, is to be able to read something, see it, hear it, and process it. And then, guess what? Do something about it.
Yeah.
Don't say, oh, that's great information. Thanks.
Yeah.
Gee, Shannon, I'm really glad you had him on. And then you go about your business. No. We want to motivate you to do something. Get that will done. Talk to the expert. Look at the Roth strategies and see if it makes sense, and see how much and when, and, do what you need to do to get your child qualified for SSI and SSDI. And if you only have limited bandwidth and your child hasn't qualified yet for SSI or SSDI, that's number one. Estate planning, number two. Financial strategies, which is really more my bailiwick, that's number three.
But keep in mind, you guys, they are very aware of the fact that not everybody has tons and tons of money to play with. It's not about that. It's about a long strategy in a lot of cases. So you can do this for very minimal amounts of money. Don't be frightened and go, well, I don't have any money to do this with, so I'm not going to do it at all. That's not a good strategy for your kiddos. Unfortunately, we're out of time, Jim, but thank you so much for sharing this wonderful information. Don't forget, you guys, go to disabledchildplanning.com/free stuff so that you can register for the Financial and Life Planning Summit, which is June 18th to the 20th. And you can get your free digital copy of Retire Secure for Parents of a Child with a Disability. Jim, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Shannon.
It's been a thrill. All right, you take care. Thank you so much. And I will just say to you guys in parting, we've got some wonderful best of Autism Live tomorrow, best of Ask Dr. Doreen. And then on Monday, we've got great guests. I don't have it in front of me, but we're back. So we're going back to live shows. We'll have Dr. Doreen on Tuesday, and our topic is we're going to talk about when should you be pushing your child and when should you not be pushing. Like sometimes that's the hardest thing to figure out. Like when is it, this is my child, how they are, and this is the way they see the world, and I shouldn't be pushing on this, but when should I be pushing so that I help them to be able to experience the world the way they want to, right? It's always, ooh, Dr. Grampy is going to answer questions about that, plus much more. That'll be on Tuesday. All right, you guys, it was wonderful being here. I hope you enjoyed our two fabulous guests today and got some really good resources. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.